What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk here on DSM Media's Turf Talk YouTube channel. Guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications for whenever we go live or post a new video. I'm one half of your host here, Dylan Davis. To my right, my co-host, Scotty. You can find us on Twitter as well at DSM_media. On today's episode of NFL Turf Talk, we are going to be wrapping up the offensive side of the ball heading into the 2023 season with our top 10 quarterback wide receiver duos. We've done our top 10 quarterbacks. We've done our top 10 receivers. We've done our top 10 skill position trios, but it's time to wrap it up with our top 10 QB receiver duos heading into the 2023 season, Scotty. And this should be pretty fun, man. It'll be another interesting, tight list, a bunch of honorable mentions, a bunch of duos that you could argue could be as high as probably 6 or 7 on this list, just in terms of preference, what you've seen so far and what you think about moving forward.
Absolutely, man. And that's what I did with this list. I went with my preference at the end of the day. I know I based it a lot of my own rankings of these players that'll be talked about during this list. So a lot of it's based off of that, our top 10 QBs, top 10 wide receivers, top 10 running backs, so on and so forth, top 10 tight ends. So they'll all be tied into these listings and these rankings. But overall, I went with my preference, man. Who do I want on my team? And when it comes to each player, each position, who do I want on my team? Which tandem would I want to lead my team? And so, I think it's going to make for an interesting conversation nonetheless.
Let me ask you, because I don't know how many there are exactly on my list, but there's a few. How much did repetition and chemistry play a role for you in this list? Because there's a couple duos on my list that haven't even played a snap together yet, versus some prolific duos that we've seen in the past, but maybe because of age or recent injury history, maybe they're not as high as duos you haven't even seen complete a pass yet.
Fair enough. Fair question. I think it had a lot to do with my rankings here. Now, to be frank, there's one duo in my listing that has played one season together. There's one duo in my listing that has not played a season together. The rest are guys that have played multiple seasons together.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I think it kind of subconsciously weighed in. I didn't necessarily use that as a factor in my own reasoning when coming up with the list, but good question, because nonetheless, it came out to not many duos included that haven't played together yet. So I guess subconsciously I did weigh that in a good bit.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, I feel like I've led off with number 10 on a majority of this list. I want you to go first this week. I want to see where you start and kind of I'll follow from there. I'm not copying your list. Trust me.
Absolutely. No, it's okay. Trust me. Then I don't copy yours either. I think we keep it pretty authentic on here for the most part. It just happens to be that we agree on a lot of rankings. Maybe that just speaks
they
to
do say great minds think alike, Scotty.
Yeah, exactly. And we come with our similar biases, I guess, in a sense too. But nonetheless, I think we keep it pretty authentic on here. Number 10 for me, man. Might be too low, might not be on your list. It's interesting. That's why we're doing this list and this ranking. But I went with the duo out of Minnesota, man, with Captain Kirk and Justin Jefferson. Obviously, not super high on Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. He puts up he lights up the numbers, right? He lights up the box score. I believe he came in 4th in passing yardage overall last year for all quarterbacks. He did have the 14 interceptions, a little high for my liking, but nonetheless, he's a solid quarterback. He probably ranks in around the 10 to 15 range. Yeah, exactly. But Justin Jefferson is my number 1 wide receiver, which is ultimately which brings this duo up to where it is. You got a middle of the pack, top 15 quarterback with the number 1 wide receiver in my wide receiver rankings. So went with Minnesota here, man.
They're an honorable mention for me, man. I know it sounds crazy when we're talking about our solidified number 1 wide receiver in the league, as long as the QB isn't Sam Howell or a rookie and, CJ Stroud, they probably should crack my list. It's just I look at the other quarterbacks on this list, and I just think if not all of them, 9 out of 10 I would put light years ahead of Kirk Cousins. And the receivers, obviously with Jefferson being number 1 overall, but the receivers just aren't that far off in terms of, the rest of the group versus Jettas compared to where I have Cousins and these quarterbacks. Coming in at number 10, I have Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen, a duo that could probably be a lot higher in the last 2 years or so.
Yeah.
But Keenan Allen is kind of the question mark here for me. That's why I dropped him a little lower on my list than where I had him this morning. Obviously, has had issues staying on the field. But when it comes down to it, Justin Herbert is a top 5 to 6 quarterback, wherever you want to rank him. Has premier arm talent, might have the strongest arm in the league. Keenan Allen, he's not quite top 10, 15 type of wide receiver anymore, but if he can stay on the field, he has that upside. He's one of the game's best route runners, one of the game's best hands. He's a guy that can catch 90 to 100 balls, double-digit touchdowns if he can stay on the field. So banking on that, I would put those two coming in at my number 10 slot.
Interesting, man. So it begs the question. When we were going through, and this is probably a question I should have asked before.
Let's see.
We including running backs?
I'm not. I don't. If you have them on there, that's fine.
So be it. Okay.
You're going
I have one running back on
Herbert and Eckler.
Yeah, it's Herbert and Eckler, and they are a little bit. They're a little bit higher in my list. And maybe it's even more fair in that sense, just because of the way Eckler receives the ball.
I'll throw this to you, not to deter your list. But if LA stays healthy in the wide receiver room, I don't know if Eckler is utilized so heavily in the passing game as he was last year. Dude, like 11 catches out of the backfield, 10 catches out of the backfield. It was absurd, but it basically had no other options there in LA. Yeah. So if Allen and Williams and Quentin Johnston are healthy, I don't know if Eckler is. He's still going to catch balls, don't get me wrong. I just don't know if he's going to be that premier receiving back that he was.
I think with this one for me, man, and let me dig into them later. I do have them a little bit higher than where we're at right now. I'll dig into that a little bit as we go into the show. My number 9 is actually going to be the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Yep. This one was weird for me, man, because I do put Dak in that Kirk Cousins bubble. But Dak, I do like a little bit more than Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I do like him a little bit more. CeeDee Lamb, he speaks for himself, right? He's a top 10 wide receiver. I even had Dak, I believe, number 9 or number 10 in my quarterback rankings. They've been playing for 3 years now, and CeeDee Lamb has eclipsed over 1,000 yards in each of the past 2 at least. So I like that duo. I think they're only bound to get better as the two pair it off, right? And I think CeeDee Lamb is kind of the high point of that duo. He's the guy that is going to get significantly better in my eyes. Whether it's with Dak or not going forward, we'll see with Trey Lance in the building.
I respect the pick, man. And I would say, like, I know we're biased towards the Dallas Cowboys, but Dak Prescott to me is the tier above Kirk Cousins. I know we like to poke fun at him. I know we like to talk about the turnovers from last year, but I think he's a much better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. Coming in at number 9 is one of those duos that I mentioned earlier that we haven't even seen completed pass in regular season football. That's down in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley. Again, we're going to say this for every duo, a duo that could be higher on the list. It's premier talent right now. But this duo could be a lot of fun, man. We talked about this when we broke down Calvin Ridley before. We haven't really seen him since 2021, being a number 1 wide receiver post Julio Jones in Atlanta. And he was ridiculous in that role, even with mediocre quarterback play at that time. You put him in this high-flying offense with Doug Peterson, with Trevor Lawrence taking another step, another year. I think they're going to be a lot of fun. I'm a proud Calvin Ridley fantasy owner. So I hope that both of them put up numbers, but I think they're going to be pretty high-flying this year at number 9.
I don't mind that pick. They were an honorable mention for me. Like you said, they haven't played a snap together yet, but really it just comes from I don't want to say doubt, because I'm not doubting Calvin Ridley. It's just a question mark, I guess. And is he going to bounce back after a year off from football and look like
that selection for me was definitely just more expectations than anything else. Obviously, we haven't even seen it yet.
I wanted to get Trevor Lawrence on the list. Honestly, he's obviously a top 6 quarterback for me. So I wanted to get him on the list. I just couldn't find a partner that I liked enough to get him up here. But I think that's more than reasonable at number 9. I think 8 through 10, you can kind of argue. Man, even honestly, I don't know the whole list. We'll see, man. Because I was gonna say 7 down, but no,
Yeah.
it's all arguable. It's all
Yeah.
perception. But number 8, I'm gonna kind of follow your route, your lead here, and I'm gonna go with a duo that has not played together yet, at least officially in the regular season. That's gonna be Aaron Rodgers and
NYC.
Garrett
Yep.
Wilson. Yeah, the New York Jets, man. I'm watching Hard Knocks. I'm coming around to them. I still think that division's like ridiculously tough. The
That
Dolphins.
line was effing incredible by him last night.
Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta love that, and that's what kind of gives me the confidence back in Aaron.
Yeah.
It seems like he's having fun again, and a fun Aaron Rodgers is dangerous for the NFL. That being said, Garrett Wilson, he finished as a top 15 wide receiver last year just off metrics, yardage. I think he can get into that top 10 easily playing with Aaron Rodgers, man. I know they added a few weapons out there, but that wide receiver room is still a little scarce in regards
Yeah.
to the rest of the league. So I think he's going to get force-fed targets. He's going to be the clear number 1 wide receiver there in New York. And I think he's going to eat. I think he could possibly – I mean, the wide receiver position is so, like, dense right now. It's hard to say this second-year wide receiver is going to go in and become a top 10 wide receiver, but I would put him in that bubble of, category as far as the potential to become a top 10 wide receiver this year. You got to think, this dude was playing with Zach Wilson and company last year,
Yeah.
right? What was it, Joe Flacco at certain points in the
Yeah.
season? So, like, this dude was playing with beyond scrubs, right? Like, beyond. So with that being said, I think there's a high ceiling there for Garrett Wilson. A top 10, top 15 pick in the draft for the Jets a year ago, with a former 2-time MVP, NFL Super Bowl champion, right, and Aaron Rodgers. So I like that duo coming into this season.
Yeah, no, I like the pick there, man. I do have them a little bit higher. I'll get to them in a couple minutes here. But coming in at number 8, a duo you already talked about. I do have Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb right there. Again, do I think that by the end of year's time, Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence could be a better duo than those two? Yeah, I do, because I think Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback, and I think Calvin Ridley, if we see him on the field for 17 games, has an argument to be around a top 10 wide receiver, as we have CeeDee Lamb top 10 as well. But the bottom line, to our points from earlier, I haven't seen Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence complete a pass yet. I've seen Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb complete a bunch of passes for a bunch of success over the last couple of years. CeeDee Lamb, I believe, eclipsing 1,000 yards each of his first 3 years. Dak Prescott, a 4,000 plus, yard passer every single year, basically. They're going to air the ball out. He's the number 1 target there. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like the combination's kind of been there. The connection's been there since day 1 in Dallas. Big playability, intermediate stuff, possession receiver. I think the two of them do a lot of different things and complement each other on the field together. So I have Dak and CD at number 8.
I like that. And I was actually just taking a look here at Calvin Ridley's numbers just because you made that comparison. And yeah, I was just checking. So it looks like you could probably say they've had about the same peak so far in their careers as far as CeeDee Lamb and Calvin Ridley, because in that 2020 season, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. So around the same production at CeeDee's peak as for Calvin Ridley. So yeah, I actually like that point as well. Number 7 for me is going to be the Miami Dolphins, man. I went with Tua and Tyreek Hill here. Obviously, Tua was a top 10 quarterback for me this year. I believe he came in at number 8 for me. Tyreek Hill's the top 3 wide receiver for me. So kind of puts them right here in this list, right where they are. I feel when you have Tyreek Hill kind of pulling Tua up into these rankings. It's just as simple as Tyreek Hill's effect on an offense, man. When you put him with almost any quarterback in the top 15, he's going to be arguable to be on this list, in my opinion. I think Tua is better than that, right? Tua's just got to stay healthy. That's the big thing for him this year. And even Tyreek Hill, I know he played every game, if not only missing 1 or 2. He needs to stay healthy. He wasn't healthy all last year. He's kind of hobbling around.
No, he was nicked
hobbling
up
around the 1,700 yards, but
right.
He still needs to stay healthy himself. Same with Tua.
Yeah, I have them actually exactly at number 7, and it's kind of weird, man. The question mark is definitely Tua in this duo, right? But when you think about it, if Tua stays healthy, Tyreek most likely breaks the receiving record last year.
Yeah. I think
So
that's a good thing to say. Yeah.
it's like weird to sit here and say they're the 7th best duo when in year 1 together, Tua would have been the guy getting the all-time receiving leader in a season the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very weird to hold them at number 7, but it's where I have them because, again, when I look at the quarterbacks above him, it's not all that close except for one. And then when I look at his recent injury history, I mean, dude, the guy's lucky to be playing football. So I need to see him back out on a field with confidence, standing in the pocket, taking hits, not getting injured, not getting another concussion, and still have that connection with Tyreek Hill. Also, when you have a counterpart like Jalen Waddle there, you can make an argument that they're a top 15 duo as well. So I have Tua and Hill at number 7 as well, dude.
Yeah, I like that. So we agree there. Number 6 for me, I have Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews coming in at number 6, the duo there out of Baltimore. Lamar, another case of just got to stay healthy, my man. And he's going to put up numbers. We know that. I think he will come out this season. He has a lot better weapons to use in the passing game. I think he should put up even better passing numbers this year, especially after getting the contract and stuff sorted out. That when you have that big thing on your shoulder, that big chip on your shoulder, called a contract negotiation, can seem to weigh in on your gameplay and maybe your willingness to go out there and even play through certain injuries or things that are lingering around with his body. So I like him to stay healthy this year. I like him to have more options, but it doesn't take away from Mark Andrews. I think it actually adds for Mark Andrews. He has a ton of attention on him all the time last year, right? Now you have a bunch of guys around him. Not calling any of these guys wide receiver ones, but they are solid wide receivers compared to what the Ravens have had in the past. And to that point, you're talking about a top 3 tight end with a top 10 quarterback right here. So that's why they come in at number 6 on my list, right outside the top 5.
That's interesting that you bring up the point about it. The supporting cast: OBJ, Zay Flowers, a healthy Rashad Bateman, helping Mark Andrews. Man, I left this duo off my list for the same reason I gave you about not pairing Eckler with Justin Herbert. I think the opposite a little bit. I think Mark Andrews is still going to be a top 2, top 3 producing type of tight end, but I think that Baltimore is going to be a little bit more explosive, high flying, get the ball to receivers a little bit more this year. And while that's going to help free up Mark Andrews, he's not going to have to work as hard. I don't know if the overall production that we've seen the last 2 or 3 years from this duo is going to be as high as some of these other duos we have. So I did leave them off of this list, but again, there's plenty of reason they could be inside the top 10, man. Absolutely. At number 6, I'm interested because I think you're not going to have this one on your list, and I have them pretty damn high.
I'm interested here.
Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. I have at number 6, man. And I get it. Trust me, I get the Stafford concern.
I'm out on Matthew Stafford. I think that's what that means. Yeah.
I feel you. But the last time we saw these two on a field together, they were winning a Super Bowl and breaking receiving records, and it was dynamic, man. Now, the Rams are a disaster. Stafford, another year older, another injury, another surgery. Reports are coming out. He doesn't know anything about these new guys. He's having trouble relating to them. But there's one guy he's not going to have trouble relating to. So the Rams can be as bad as they want to be this year. Their defense, I couldn't name you more than 2 starters on it. But Cooper Kupp's still going to have 100-plus receptions, close to 1,800 yards, and however many touchdowns he wants if Matthew Stafford is on the field getting him the ball, compared to the slop at quarterback play they got after Stafford last year.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they were on my honorable mentions list here. Anytime you got Cooper Kupp in a duo, I think there's a reason to talk about him and even discuss him in the top 10. I'm just out on Matthew Stafford, man, and maybe that's I don't know what that is. I think I just looked at him last year. It's a mix with the Rams and them kind of just not playing for anything. It feels like it feels like their time is done. time is kind of moving past this team, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I feel like this is a team, obviously we'll talk about them a little bit later, but this is a team that you're going to continue to see sell players, I feel, that want to go and compete for championships. So when I'm looking at this team, I just don't know how invested Matthew Stafford is at this point. It's easy after you win the Super Bowl, you hurt your neck last year or your back or your head, whatever that injury was last year. I feel like it's easy to just let the game go and move on, man. Like, especially living out
I
there in
feel you.
LA. But maybe I'm discounting his want and his need to be successful in the NFL and be good at football
Right, because
still.
I'd
So.
probably just retire at that point. Like,
Right,
if
right. That's
which,
I honestly, Dylan, I thought he might retire before
hey,
this season.
I'm going to say
I
this.
honestly thought he might.
He still could.
Yeah.
He could
He
just
could
up and
if it
say,
starts really bad, yeah, man. Even before the season, he could change his mind if it's going really bad. But with that being said, all that being said, give Matthew Stafford a good offensive line there in
yep.
LA. And yeah, I do think he could do work with Cooper Kupp. So maybe that is a lot of what's playing into
Yeah.
it, is maybe not the duo factor, but the fact of the surrounding
Well,
team.
let's
And
be honest with
is he
you,
going to be able to
dude.
stay on his feet?
Let's be honest. The last time we saw Stafford play, even through winning a Super Bowl and doing all that with Cup, still led the league in interceptions. It's not like the
Yeah,
last time we saw him, he was just lights out, right? He
yeah.
still had a lot of issues.
He's a
2
gunslinger,
years
though.
older from that point, more injury
Yeah,
concern. So I get you. I just think even if they stink in terms of just a duo, right? You
yeah,
separate them from the Rams. I
yeah.
still think they'll put up a lot of points in production together.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Number 5 for me is where my LA Chargers connection is going to come
Okay.
in. And this is based on Justin Herbert being a top 5, top 6 quarterback for me, and Austin Eckler being the same as far as the running back group. I thought you make a good point about, having Keenan Allen back healthy. I think he's going to take a lot of those targets away in the passing game. But my hope is that they'll use him as a running back a little bit more this year, because he was basically used as a little wide receiver coming out of the
Yeah.
backfield last year, totaling over 100 receptions. But it doesn't take away Eckler's his talent, his skill set, and his knack for getting into the end zone, which is what I love about him. Justin Herbert, he's just a guy that's going to air you out. But the reason I like this duo together is because it feels like Justin Herbert just likes to check down almost a little too often to his running back. It's a good weapon to have back there. It's a good, little bailout type of play that you can incorporate to almost any passing down. But when you have it as your number one option, I don't know how much you love that. Although,
Yeah.
given the production, given the output from the two, I did move them up here to number 5. And maybe that's not being fair to Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, because I'm kind of
The
looking at these two guys
disrespect.
in a
Nah.
whole and not doing the same as I did with the Rams. But
Yeah.
I do like Justin Herbert. I like Austin Eckler. Maybe it's not the duo that I like together, but they
Yeah,
balance
not
each
good.
other out nonetheless.
I feel you. At number 5, I do have your New York Jets connection coming in here.
I like it.
Again, maybe extremely high for a duo that has not completed a pass together in the regular season yet. But when you talk about all of the hype surrounding what is Garrett Wilson and what he was able to accomplish, like you talked about earlier in his rookie season with you and I playing quarterback, quite
Yeah,
frankly, his
yeah,
rookie year, over
literally.
1,100 yards, lacked in the touchdown department, but so did the Jets offense as a whole. It had nothing to do with him. Visibly frustrated at times last year. Now you bring in a guy, a Super Bowl champion, an MVP, and a future yellow jacket, right? A future gold jacket holder in Aaron Rodgers. And it makes me laugh, man. It cracks me up the way that some people are still down on the Jets because they have a quarterback problem, as if Aaron Rodgers isn't still Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's interesting. A
Aaron
quarterback problem.
Rodgers is going to come to New York City, and it's going to look like he never left Devontae Adams 2 years ago. That's my prediction. I'm in on the Jets. We broke down that division. We broke down all of it. I am so in on this defense, on this team. But this duo, man, I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot of fun because
Yeah,
he finally, for the first, he had Devontae all those years, right? But he finally, since Devontae departed, has a wide receiver he can trust, man. He hated being in Green Bay last year. He
Yeah.
did not want to have to teach Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and all these guys where to be and when to be and blah, 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 blah. You ain't got to teach Garrett Wilson that. The youth's there, but you don't got to teach him that. And you brought some of your buddies in with you, gives them that comfortability. I think this duo is going to put up big numbers. I think Garrett Wilson's going to go for, I'm going to say Garrett Wilson goes for over 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, no, I can get down with that. I can agree with that. Yeah, obviously I spoke on them earlier. I like the prospects, and I'm coming around to them watching Hard Knocks. Just
Now
seeing
things get interesting.
the chemistry, right? But
yeah,
I'm still high on the Bills and the Dolphins, so don't get me wrong there. Nonetheless, speaking of the Buffalo Bills, they come in at number 4 here for me. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Don't really got to say too much about these guys. I mean, it's top 5, top 4 quarterback, top 3, however you look at it. Not top 3 for me, top 4.
We did our quarterback rankings. He was 4 for both of us.
Yeah. So top 4 quarterback, top 5, top 6 wide receiver, depending on how you look at Stephon Diggs. Ever since Stephon Diggs came over to this team, we've seen the impact that he has for Josh Allen, turn this offense into a juggernaut. And Josh Allen, on the other side of that conversation, has developed very well. Had a little bit, people call it a down year. I called it a down year. I feel like I have in the past, but when you look at the numbers, it's not really a down year. It's a down year compared to other great top 5 quarterbacks, maybe.
Well, I'll say this. We talked a lot about Josh Allen last year, man, and I have them at number 4 as well, right with you. That's why I pick it up, because statistically, it might not have been a down year, but he made a lot of losing plays last year. He made a lot of mistakes in crunch time and crucial moments, a la the Minnesota game. Right now, I get it. A 4th and ridiculous freak catch by Justin Jefferson should never happen, but the fumble at the goal line, throws the interception at the end of the game. He made a lot of losing plays last year, man. And the issue I have with Josh Allen right now, when everyone still holds him to this pedestal of, he's right there, he's been surpassed. Like, it was Buffalo and Kansas City. It was Allen and Mahomes. That was supposed to be the Brady-Manning battle moving forward. He's been surpassed already by a younger Joe Burrow. So he now has to gain ground. And when you're looking at the rest of these duos ahead, so not only has he been surpassed, but at his own position, Stephon Diggs has probably been surpassed by the 3 guys I have on this list as well ahead of him. Maybe, he might be better than a particular Eagle, but it's not that far off.
Trying to remember where I feel like I had Diggs over AJ, and
I had him over AJ as well, but I don't know if it's that far off anymore.
I think that's fair. Yeah, no, that's fair. Josh Allen, I'm just thinking over Josh Allen's season. I think, when you put it into perspective, he's coming in at number 4 on our list, right? So it's like, I get what you're saying, but it's not a down year when you come in at number 4. No, I guess is what I'm trying to get around in my head. You know what I mean? Like, a down year. He did make some bonehead plays. I do agree with you, and he did cost his team some games. So I think he falls right where he is, man. I think that's as simple as it gets.
What I'm trying to say,
I agree with everything you said. It's just the down year.
What I'm saying is,
it's funny what we call a down year these days.
I agree, but we have 3 quarterbacks ahead of him. We had 3 quarterbacks ahead of him on our list. Heading into last year, this time last season, he was number 2. In 1 year, he allowed 2 younger quarterbacks to surpass him. So, statistically, he's still a top 4, top 5 quarterback in the league. Diggs is up there, but he's, it's weird what I'm trying to say.
He had a down year in respect to the 3 guys ahead of him. But when it comes to like the rest of the league, I don't think he had that much of a down year. I think we agree with what we're saying. I just think it's like coming out differently. I honestly do believe that. Because I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just wonder if, say, this number 3 guy, right? I have Hurts and AJ Brown coming in at number 3.
So let's just run through the rest of the list because we're the same. Allen, Diggs. Maybe we're not the same, but I would assume we are. Allen, Diggs, Hurts, AJ, Burrow, Chase,
Yeah.
Mahomes, Kelce.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're the same
Absolutely.
top 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that shows a little bit of consistency there.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. But
Yes.
to your point, Josh Allen, it's like, I guess my question is, did Josh Allen have a down year or did Jalen Hurts just have a really good MVP
I
season, right?
think
Like, did
a
he
combination
ascend
of
so
both.
far or did Josh Allen drop so far?
No, he didn't drop so far. It's a combination of the two things. My beef with Josh Allen is, brother, you cannot allow that to even happen.
Yeah.
You can't allow that to occur. Since
Yeah.
Burrow stepped into the league in year 2, Burrow has surpassed him. Since Jalen got formidable help, Jalen has surpassed him. And you were supposed to be the dude fighting with Pat Mahomes to go to Super Bowls each year. That's my kind of, not beef with him, but that's my
Yeah.
knock on him, right?
Yeah.
When you watch that divisional round game 2 years ago, wow, this is the future. Apparently not so fast, right? Now
Yeah.
it's a new year, who knows? But like you said, with that, they're still number 4. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. They're still number 4. Yeah.
I would
And the
say
Joe
this.
Burrow thing is interesting because honestly, going into last year, I thought Joe Burrow was better than Josh Allen. And the reason I say that is because of the mentality, the mindset. And I think that's why after what I saw from Jalen Hurts. So the concern with me for Josh Allen is exactly what you discussed, and that's the bonehead plays,
Yeah.
the mental mistakes that turn into physical errors, right? Which are turnovers in big moments. So yeah, I think that makes sense because the 3 guys that we have ahead of him here in the quarterback rankings list
Yes.
are 3 guys that are built differently up here. It's not that they're these overwhelming talents ahead of Josh Allen. Josh Allen's a hell of a talent. He has hell of a skill set. It's the mental up here that he just hasn't been able to get over that hump. So yeah, I agree with you. I think we agree here. Obviously, we agree on our top 4, but let's talk about Burrow and Chase versus Hurts and AJ, because I think Patrick Mahomes and
They're on
Travis
a tier
Kelce,
of their own.
the 2-time Super Bowl champions, I think they're kind of in their own
They
category
are on a
here.
tier of their own for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So when you look at Burrow and Chase versus AJ and Hurts, I guess it's kind of simple for you because you had Chase over AJ, right?
Yes. And I was just going to say, I do think it's pretty simple. It's very close, but it's simple as to why they get the nod at number 2. They technically, they've accomplished a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
We both lost in a Super Bowl, but they've been to 2 AFC championships so far. They've been together longer. I had Burrow ranked 1 slot ahead of Hurts, and I had Chase ranked 3 or 4 slots ahead of AJ Brown.
Yeah.
I can't come on here and say AJ Brown and Hurts are the better duo than those 2. So yeah, that's why they're there. But I do wholeheartly agree. Mahomes, Kelce, the rings, the championship pedigree, breaking records in the postseason, they're on a platform on their own, my man.
Yeah, no, I completely agree there. And with the Bengals situation, obviously I had AJ ahead of Chase, so that kind of evened the playing field out a little bit in these rankings. But the difference between Burrow and Hurts for me, which I'm not trying to throw shade at Hurts at all here, but Burrow, in my eyes, is just a different animal of quarterback. Now, maybe that's me, discounting Jalen Hurts because of the running ability at that point. I'm not trying to think through it too thoroughly here or overthink it. Joe Burrow is just a better quarterback to me, and
Scotty,
that weighs more to me to put that duo up ahead of them.
Scotty, I agree with you because here's the thing. We've already done our quarterback rankings, and Jalen Hurts deserves to be where he is, and you and I are Eagles fans first and foremost, and we're extremely high on him and the future of this team.
Yeah.
But there are probably people out there from the outside looking in, non-Bengals, non-Eagles, non-Chiefs, non-Bills fans from the outside scope saying, you're slightly overreacting. Like, we've already put him past Josh Allen. Now, I actually believe that, but that's in one season's work. Now, Joe Burrow doesn't have a ton more work than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
But he's been doing it a little longer. He's gone to back-to-back AFC championships. The first year that he went to a Super Bowl, he had the worst offensive line in football. So, like, it's not disrespectful to put them below Burrow and Chase, because he hasn't surpassed Burrow yet.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie to you. If there's people out there that try to say he's better than Joe Burrow, I say it all the time on this show, but you're probably not someone I can have a serious conversation with. I'm not saying he won't be better than Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
But you haven't seen anything yet that says he's surpassed Joe Burrow and he's the second best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, because now we're getting into like literally the surrounding teams around these guys, right? And we look at the Bengals versus the Eagles. What's the big difference between those two teams? The offensive lines.
Yeah.
And look at what Joe Burrow's been able to do with that in mind. You talk about 2 AFC championships back to back, trip to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they lose, but able to take down Mahomes that year, which is something that Jalen Hurts hasn't been able to do, but he's only had one shot at it, right? Or two, I guess, if you include the regular season.
I firmly believe he's going to get another shot at it this year. And if he goes out and wins one, guess what? If Jalen Hurts wins the Super Bowl this year, or hell, gets back and loses to Mahomes again and has that MVP type of season, he'll probably pass Burrow.
Yeah.
But I'm saying right now, this date, you can't make that argument. And my fellow Eagles fans, whoever's going to get mad at this, like, it's funny, man, because it's not disrespect. Like I just said, the dude is already the third best quarterback in the league for my money.
Yeah.
It's like when I tell LeBron James stands that he's the second best player ever. Oh, what do you mean? Bro, I just said he's the second greatest basketball player to ever lace up his shoes. But they take it as disrespect.
Right.
Jalen Hurts, after one amazing season, I already have him at number 3, but I'll still get my head bitten off because what do you mean he's not better than Joe Burrow?
Yeah, no, I feel you, man. And there's, like you said, there's people out there that will probably argue. I've seen people argue Herbert over Hurts, right? There's people that argue
Allen, Herbert,
Lawrence. I mean, I've seen some wild stuff out there. So to each their own, man. I think Hurts is here to stay. I think that's something that we could probably agree on. But when I say here to stay, that doesn't mean surpassing Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes as like a better passing quarterback, right? So it'll be interesting to see how these guys' careers play out because all 4 of these guys right here, these top 4, you can even throw Herbert in there.
They're the solidified bunch, Scotty.
Yeah, with every next era.
Yeah, with the quarterback rankings
era, you know what I mean?
Yeah, with the quarterback rankings, with almost kind of power rankings. Yeah. These are close to being the top 4 teams in the league, right? And that's, if you want to argue, obviously, if you want to put San Fran in that conversation, maybe like I don't know where you feel about that, but
you know what's going to be fun this year is like literally playing the Chiefs and the Bills and like getting these head-to-head quarterback matchups, and we'll see, right? Like we get to see who's the better guy that day, and I'm looking forward to those.
And here's my point about possibly overreacting to Hurts one season. Like I want everybody to understand this. Even if the Chiefs and the Eagles met back in the Super Bowl this year and Jalen Hurts beat Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl this year, he still didn't surpass Patrick Mahomes to be the best quarterback in the National Football League. Now, if he beats Joe Burrow head-to-head in the Super Bowl, I'll put him above Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, 0 rings. Jalen Hurts, 1. Jalen Hurts, back-to-back Super Bowls, yada, yada. Yeah. But he's not going to surpass Mahomes, and I'm sure there would be people out there that if he was able to accomplish that feat and take down Goliath, right?
Maybe
better.
He is.
Yeah.
Maybe he is better than Joe. All right, better than Patrick Mahomes.
With that said,
I don't know if they should go
that is going to wrap up our top 10 quarterback receiver duos heading into the 2023 season. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week, we'll head on over to the defensive side of the ball as we head into week 1. It's so close. It's so close, but we will be right back with our NFC West breakdown and outlook.